Well, hello, audience. This is Scott Clausen with PPM Works, and today on this webcast, we'll be looking at some advanced project and portfolio management features for OnePlan. This is really targeted to maybe an audience that is a little bit new to OnePlan and has just really done the basics, and they're interested in some more advanced functionality for your project and portfolio management teams. So just a little announcement here. We have some upcoming webinars in April, a whole series looking at different features around OnePlan for your portfolio management teams. And you can always see our latest events at ppmworks.com/events. So today we're going to talk through some of the challenges in portfolio management, brief introduction to OnePlan, look at some of the dashboard and reporting features, resource optimization strategies, and best practices. So if you're just joining now, I just went through kind of the agenda as well as some of our upcoming webinars. So as we go through, feel free to raise your hand or put any questions in the chat you'd like me to address. So some of the challenges we hear for groups that are out using OnePlan for their project and portfolio management, it would be managing multiple projects efficiently, making sure your projects are aligned with business goals, as always, making sure you have the capacity to complete your projects. That's going to be resource allocation, as well as potentially your financial budget constraints. And then making sure you have good visibility into how your portfolios are performing. So OnePlan has a number of solutions to help kind of meet those challenges. It's a very comprehensive project and portfolio management tool. It has most of the customers we work with that begin using it, you realize at the beginning point, it helps get all your projects in one place, but there's really a lot of depth of functionality once you get to learn the solution, and it kind of matures along with your portfolio management team. So it's always going to help organizations align with their strategic goals and provide real-time visibility into your projects. So one of the ways we're able to gain visibility, and I'll show this in a demo, is through a series of dashboards. And OnePlan has what we call a reporting pack available out of the box. I think it's really good to kind of set your expectation of this reporting pack, and I will show it here. It helps you kind of envision what's possible. I don't want any customer on the platform to think you can just take this generic reporting pack, plug it in, and you're instantly going to be a optimal team. It just kind of has ideas. We do find that every portfolio team runs a little bit differently. You're going to have, your fields or your metadata, if you will, that's going to be slightly different than what's in the report pack. So good for visioning what would be possible, but not really an end solution. And then if you haven't yet got into the resource capacity with OnePlan, there's a number of features there. I'll just be reviewing some of them, how we can help balance our workload across projects, how we can even do scenarios based on projects we may select or not select. All right, well, with that, I'm going to go ahead and jump over to my live demo. So here I am in one of my OnePlan demo environments, signed in as a user called Mod Administrator. And of course, OnePlan uses all of your Microsoft authentication, so single sign-on, not an additional password to have to remember. And one of the most common screens you're going to use is this My Portfolio screen. And let me just change the view here. So this is going to give me a view of my projects and portfolios. And we're going to look at first one of the ways you can build your schedule. And for that, I have under the ability to drill down here and look at my maybe my projects, and then above my projects would be programs, and at the top level would be my portfolio. So I created a project called a sample new project. I just want to point out some things when we talk about advanced scheduling. So after I've created kind of this blank project, I'm going to go over to my work plan, which is going to be the area where I can create a schedule. And if your schedule is blank, you're prompted with this screen for building out your schedule. And you could, of course, start with a blank plan. That's maybe the easiest if you want to kind of build the schedule yourself. I'm going to show you some other tips here. You can integrate with your favorite tool. So one of the reasons we really appreciate OnePlan is that it lets you execute your projects no matter where you'd like. So you might have a mix of that. You could have some projects essentially being done through Agile, maybe in Azure DevOps. Other ones maybe are done in Microsoft Planner. Other ones maybe would be in Smartsheet or Asana. So really a lot of different ways you can, lots of tools you can use to execute your schedule. But we're going to be talking about the scheduling in OnePlan. And I'm going to show you now this search for a template here. So inside this dialog window, if you haven't seen it in the last recently, there's a number of online templates that are available. So I can look through, if I'm looking for a certain marketing type project or application development. But let's say that I can't find quite the template I'd like. So I can actually, in this point, go to AI, and I can indicate I would like to create a schedule for a new internal app release. So I just hit that. It's now searching for a schedule for a new internal app release. We'll give it probably another minute or two. And if you're just joining here, feel free to put questions in the chat if you have them as I go here. So when I did this shortly before the demo, it took maybe a minute. So we'll just give it another 30 seconds here. All right, there we go. So it's proposed kind of this sample. Let me actually just say, go ahead and insert this at the end of my project. It works. Maybe. I think maybe because it's my first time in here, it didn't work. But you kind of saw how it found that. Now, the other thing I want to point out about templates, if you are in the schedule, you can do the same option here to insert a template. Maybe that's what I did when I tried. But let me just choose one of these online ones here. And I want to point out that if, for example, you're doing something like a product launch, you have the ability to, let me start on my schedule here and add a few tasks. So this could be product launch 1, product launch 2, so what I want to illustrate here is that you don't necessarily have to think of it as a template as your whole schedule. You can think of it as a module. So if I want to insert my first project launch here, I could just go to this insert template. Or product launch, and I'll put it under the tasks. And this does take just a moment. And then I'll make sure that I indent these. So there's my first product launch, and I could continue inserting templates. So my point in this is just to illustrate the point that your templates can be more modularized. So you don't think of it as creating a full template. In OnePlan, you can create a module of a template and just go up here and go ahead and save your template. And that'll create your different modules. Or as I showed you with inserting, we can look at different templates that are available on the web. online or through AI. Okay. AI is increasingly important for kind of building schedules. You can be much more specific than I was when I gave you that sample. So that's use of templates for some more advanced schedule planning. Next, I want to talk a little bit about resources and costs for a project. And for that, I'm going to go to a project that I have already kind of done a full schedule on and look at the work plan. So here I've built my schedule. I have lots of different levels if I want to expand, lots of different people assigned to my schedule. And if you haven't seen already, that data is going to come over into your resource plan. So it's going to look at who's in your schedule, and it's going to bring that over into the resource plan. We'll just give it a moment to load here. And so if I go here to the upper left of my resource and I go to scheduled, these are the individuals that are in my schedule. In fact, you can, for most of these people, for all of them really, you can expand and see the actual tasks that they're scheduled in the time frame. So this is illustrating something we call bottom-up resource planning. It is the most challenging type of resource planning because it involves really creating a detailed schedule and keeping it up to date, each task, right? So if a task slips, you're going to make sure it has the successor dependencies on it, so the tasks that are downstream will also slip, right? If someone completes a task early, you want to bring things in. If someone, you change assignments on a task, so it really does work great. But I like to warn people that if you are doing more bottom-up resource planning, you want to make sure that you have sufficient time to do it. So, maybe one project manager per 1,000 active tasks or something like that, right? It's not going to work if you're trying to manage thousands of active tasks. It's just too much time than you have. So in that case, when you don't really want to manage resources at the task level, what we recommend is this other resource method, which in this demo environment, we call it committed. And this is going to be more top-down resource planning. So how does this work? I would maybe show my candidate list here, and I would look at my generic candidates. So I know I'm going to need a new business analyst. So I'm going to click the business analyst, add it to my schedule. It's down here. I'm going to do my top-down resource forecast, either in hours like this, where I say I'm going to need this person 50 hours for the next few months, or you can allocate across the whole year, or you can even change this to do your allocation in percentage or full-time equivalent, so one represents one person. Using this top-down resource management, you can start with this. Then I can actually say, okay, if I want a real business analyst, let me go ahead and find the best match. So it's given me these names in my resource pool, and I see that Kevin has the most availability based on other projects, and I can have the business analyst selected above, Kevin selected below, and then I can use this replace option so that it moves Kevin into that slot. So this is what we call top-down resource planning. I'm not doing it on the task, I'm more just kind of doing it on this grid. And that's going to give you, like I said, an easier way to do your resource planning, as well as that visibility across the portfolio. Okay. Now, the next advanced topic I want to talk about is how these resources will translate into costs. So in this sample, we've configured this role field, and you saw just now is working with the role for business analyst. Behind the scenes, let me go back into what's called the configuration. We have something called our financial plan configuration, and we have something called cost categories. And one of our cost categories, which is a way we're going to track costs for our project, is called labor. And notice what I've configured for labor is the fact that labor will be determined based on role. So we call this sometimes a rate code, and what OnePlan will allow you to do is create a blended rate across your rate code, or in this case, role. And what OnePlan will automatically put all of the roles that you have configured for resources. And then it has this little rates icon. So what I can do is set my rates for this role. So for example, business analyst is 185, developer is 190. And you can even set up a time phase table. So maybe this, in 2024, you had one rate, 25, you have another. These are, again, blended rates. So they're configured kind of in the back end by a certain field, in this case, role. And what that's going to give you, going back to my project, is the ability to flip over now to my financials, and I'll actually see a forecast of, blended labor by role. And that is the foundation of how you would bring estimated labor cost into your schedule. So let me review the last 5 minutes. 2 options to do resource forecasting, either bottom up through the schedule or top down through the resource plan. Additional option to set up a blended rate. The example I'm showing here is by role, and that will translate to give you a forecast of labor expense in your financial tab. So why have we done all this work to get good resource data and good financial data into our project? The reason for that is to then go ahead and use what we call the modeler. So I had a model open here already. Let me just close it. So when you're in the modeler, you can set up different folders for different models. The real purpose of the modeler is to identify which projects you would like to select and begin executing, and potentially which projects you would consider canceling, because that's also a good active function of any portfolio management group, which is not only selecting new projects to start, but terminating existing ones that maybe don't deliver the business value. So I'm going to just go into one of my existing scenarios I have here under strategic planning and talk about what's in there. So anytime you have a scenario, you're going to start with a bundle of projects. And so this could be projects from one department. It could be a number of requests that you're considering for the future. The scenario is going to define which projects are included. And then you're going to want a couple of key fields for those projects. One would be some sort of way to quantify the benefit, quantify the cost. In this case, we're using benefit and budget. And then you're going to want a way to prioritize those projects. So I'm not really going to show the details of this, but you can have either a manually inputted score, or you can have a calculated score, okay? So I'm looking in this case at 25 potential projects in my portfolio, all ranked by score. And the first thing that you generally would want to do some constraints in your portfolio on would be around cost. So I'm going to click this little $ up here. And this is showing me for 2025 that if I'm going to do all of these projects, it's going to cost me a budget of $5 million. Let's say, though, that you know already that your budget is only $4.5 million. So you can key that right in here. Actually, it wants me to do it monthly. So let me just change this view to yearly, apply, and I'll key it right in here that I only have, actually it looks like I have 4. So I'll do 4.5, 4, 5. That should be that. I have a $4 million budget. And then let me switch this view back to quarterly. So what I see is that with my $4.5 million budget, I'm not quite able to fit all the projects in. There's a couple periods here where it goes red. So what I could do is kind of look at these see some of my higher costs. I could choose, for example, this. Here's a pretty expensive product launch. I could select it, and then I can do, just learn this. I think there's a way. Oh, when I select it below, there was a shortcut here to select it above. It's here. Someone just showed me this, but I can't quite find it. So I'm going to find project launch up here. There it is at the top, and I'm going to unselect it. So that's going to move project launch out of my selection criteria. It's also going to update this. So I see that I've made some changes to where I'm getting closer to fitting my budget. So let's also bring cloud migration out. Which is right here. And you see how the numbers below change. So I get now with an acceptable level where I'm just a little bit over, but I'm actually not over when I look at the full year. So what I've done is I've just done the first part of my scenario modeling, which is limiting the cost. The other way we want to look at our scenario here is by resources. So for that, I'm going to toggle at the top to look at my resource plans. So it kind of just changes the grid below. And it's showing me that basically to do all these projects, I'm doing pretty well, except for one resource here is a little overstaffed. And I could change this view down below here to look at maybe a grouping by role. So I can see kind of by role. So this is actually not too bad when I'm looking at my resources. But if I happen to see an area that I was concerned about, there's just really one here with the trainer. What I could do is up above here, make sure I have my Gantt displayed. And I could look at the projects that were being worked on through the training organization, which looks like this talent development one here. I could select that, and I could do one of two things. I could move the project out of the portfolio, meaning non-selected in the scenario, or I can actually move it out in time. So if I drag this out to maybe 2026, you'll see that it recalculated my data below, and now the trainer is no longer over allocated in, I think it was March. So I can do two things, unselect or move it out in time. Now that I'm happy with everything here, I'm going to save this scenario as the $4.5 million scenario. And what I can do is then compare some of my different scenarios here. So if I want to click this analyze, and I can see this latest one had 23 projects, this total budget, this total effort, and this total benefits. And I can see across my different scenarios how many projects I'm able to do. And that is kind of the basis of scenario planning. And you can even do different comparisons here if you want to compare these two and see more kind of graphical display. So that is the heart of the scenario tool and scenario modeling, which is which projects are you going to select? What is the financial commitment? What is the resource commitment? You don't have to do all of that. You could do one or the other. Maybe financials are not as important for your organization as resources, or vice versa. You can do either one or both to get your nice set of potential projects to pursue. Okay. So we have about 5 minutes left. The last thing I wanted to really show here is, let me just cut over to my dashboards, is this reporting pack. So I mentioned at the beginning of the call that this is available for your OnePlan environment. It works off of kind of the sample configuration that I was just showing. And I mentioned earlier that these dashboards, we like to use them to envision what's possible, not necessarily to provide a a perfect solution because it's not going to really always match what's in your organization. So the dashboards will give you the ability to look at the high level, your portfolio, meaning the projects and programs that roll up under these portfolios. I can pick a particular portfolio here, right click and drill through to see what programs are in this portfolio. And I see there's actually just one program. And I can toggle here to see the overall or the specific status or the specific financials or execution metrics. For example, how many tasks have been completed, not completed, tasks that are behind. So those are all the details you get. And this is a drill through report. So I started at portfolio. Now I'm looking at programs within the portfolio. I can drill through to look at projects within this program. This program has 3 projects, or I can go all the way down to my somewhat, I guess, what you call the 4th level and look at a single project to see their details. Same kind of things up top here. So that's our kind of 4-level drill through: portfolio, programs, and then specific projects. I can also look at some of my health statistics here in this dashboard. See, now these are either self-input, meaning we define the schedule, financial issues, risks, resource status, or they can be calculated if you prefer that. Now, since we are looking at some of the financials, here's an overall financial summary. Looking at, how much projects cost. You could again use that kind of labor calculation that I showed. And then we also have the ability to look at different insights in the portfolio to see which projects are maybe at risk based on some criteria that we set up, so on and so forth. So that is, in summary, what you would get through the dashboard and what is available as a Power BI report pack. So flipping back now out of the demo. So some of the best practices we would have is making sure that you spend time to kind of set up OnePlan the best fit your organization. I've mentioned kind of all throughout, a lot of what I talked about is optional. It just kind of what fits your PMO. We didn't really talk about workflow and approvals, but there's ways that you can bring those into your projects. Integrating with tools, as I mentioned, Power BI in this. And at any point you want to reach out to us, our contact information is here, info@ppmworks.com, along with our link to get a free trial of OnePlan. So with 2 minutes left, I'll go ahead and wish you all well and remind you to subscribe to our YouTube channel for videos just like the one I did. Thank you and have a great day.